Down To Chat is brought to you by swag.com. We are going to be talking more about employee retention in this podcast. And I think one of the super important parts of keeping employees is making them feel valued. It's core to company culture. It's core to making people feel welcome. And so many brands pull out this janky old swag that people don't want to keep. Swag.com is exciting because they carry thousands of incredible products, from custom tech to apparel like North Face and Yeti and Nike and so much more. Swag.com works with 5,000 companies like Amazon, Netflix, Spotify, TikTok, Google, Apple, and a whole bunch of small startups. What the most exciting thing for me on swag.com is that you can create these custom gift templates where when somebody joins your company, they fill out a form. They go onto this landing page. I know Cody's a big landing page guy. Hop on a landing page and you can actually, brand this landing page, and it feels like your company's swag selection page, which is absolutely awesome. And you can ship 50 different swag boxes to 50 different addresses all on their site. So excited for that. If you use promo code D2C10 at checkout, you get 10% off your first order. Check it out, swag.com.
It's really about like content being entertaining. So how do we create entertaining content or content that people actually look forward to clicking? And so that's kind of where that performance branding started, was how can we build brand equity on the back of our working performance dollars? And so we're not sacrificing brand or what the story of the brand is, but we're also not sacrificing our paid media numbers. That tactic worked out really well at Hint, and it's worked out well ever since.
Here we are. Well, hey y'all. This is exciting. We've been talking about this for a hot minute, but welcome to Down To Chat DTC. I'm Eli Weiss, co-host Cody Plouffe. Well, here's the premise. So we are inspired by podcasts like My First Million, where people just sit around and shoot the shit, conversations that you feel like you wish you were in the room. And we know there's a ton of podcasts in D2C, not many with people that are operating. I think about a tweet I read today saying, D2C people saying we're in the trenches, but we're just clickety clackety on the keyboard. And that had me cracking. I think it's just a ton of fun to talk to people that we are friends with, or operators in the same space that we know and respect. And that's the gist of it. So thanks for joining.
Yes, thanks for everyone tuning in, and we've got a great guest here today. You probably know him, the DTC guy, Nick Sharma. I'm not going to get into his whole background, because if you don't know who this guy is, you probably are not in DTC. He's literally the DTC guy, writes an amazing newsletter, operates Sharma brands. Nick, welcome. Thanks for joining us. Excited to chat with you today, man.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Dude, the reason why we had Nick, so Cody and I were in Miami a couple of weeks back for Geek Out, and we were having a chat with Nick, and the conversation became like, what is it about Miami Nick that's just entirely different energy than New York Nick? And I think it's just, Nick unguarded, Nick unfiltered, Nick that you pay money to listen to. And that's really kind of the energy.
That's what we're here for.
That's the energy we're bringing today.
Miami Nick.
Exactly.
We might not even talk
All
about
right, so I'm in New York, but we're going to pretend I'm not in New York right now.
100%. Let's hop into it, Cody.
Yeah, let's go. Guys, on this show, we're going to go like no long bios, no backstories, no horoscopes. Like, we don't care about your sign, Nick. We just want to get straight into it, all right?
He does give off Leo. He gives off Leo energy.
How do we know for a match, Cody?
All right, Nick, what's going on, man? What's on your mind? What are you excited about right now in DTC?
Let's see. I'm excited about, honestly, everything. I told you guys in Miami, I just bought a brand.
What can you tell us about that?
Has been, I can say it's a brand that's been around for a handful of years. It's got, a couple 100,000 customers. It's got amazing products. And what's also interesting is everything was done by themselves, like made by hand, shipped by hand, in an office space just smaller than my apartment. And so for me, the fun part has been, obviously with Sharma brand, or even before Sharma brands, when I was on the brand side, I was mainly on the marketing side of things. And then with Sharma brands, we interface a little bit with everything around supply chain and fulfillment, things of that nature, but really around like sourcing those partners, setting up those partners and integrating those partners, but not actually like, going to the fulfillment center and talking to the managers on the floor, or, shaking hands with the people packing the boxes, or going and talking to the chemists that are creating the products. And so that part's been really exciting for me. It's given me a lot of ideas in terms of, why I think this brand will win even more. But, I think as a whole, like, honestly, everything to me is very exciting about D2C. I mean, you guys know, like, we were at the Good Time Hotel geeking out about just random stuff for like 2 hours, drinking soda water. So
some of us were drinking soda water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some of us had something else. All right. So what was your criteria for this brand? Like, I you don't have to tell us too much, but like anything you feel comfortable to share. Like, what were you looking for? Are you looking for great gross margins? You looking for retention? Like, what was your criteria?
Yeah, a couple things. So I'd actually been on the hunt for to buy a brand for a couple of years, and it kind of started when the pandemic first hit, and I'd started to see a few brands going up for sale, and my criteria was basically like, the thought was, all right, 0 to 1 is the hardest part of any brand, right? Getting to that 1, going 1 to 10 is a little bit easier than that, because you've got the foundation in place, what works, what doesn't work. And so the idea was basically, what can I go buy that's already at the 1 stage that then, we can plug in as Sharma brands and almost treat it like a client and grow it. And so I started looking at a few businesses. I want to say there was 3 that were really interesting to me. One was a tableware business. High margin was really attractive there. High AOV was really attractive. Premium brand look and feel. Great social proof across the board from earned media, customer reviews. And it came with an existing customer list. So that, to me, I was like, all right, checks all the boxes. The reason we didn't go through with it was there was a $600,000 loan to Silicon Valley Bank that had to be paid back, and as soon as I signed the paper, that became my loan. So we passed on that. The second one was a very high-end skincare business, and that one, again, like 90% margin on every product. Great brand name, great association with the brand. The people who wear the brand use the brand. The founder was just a little crazy. He was like, all right, I'm down to do this deal, but after I do this deal, if I get an offer for funding, I'm taking it. And I was like, this doesn't make any sense.
Wait, so would he have stayed on?
No, I don't think he knew how this process worked.
He didn't know what an acquisition was.
Yeah.
I think what's interesting, Nick, as you kind of talk about, you purchasing a brand, is that you've been operating, everything from brands as early stages, Judy, to like, further down the line, Caraway and Bacardi and all that. I think what's interesting to me is, as you kind of like venture into your own brand, it obviously comes with a whole lot of headaches. And just in general, something more broadly that I think we wanted to touch on is like, you are, I'd say, in high demand. People are driving you crazy all the time for a zillion different things. You say yes to some, you say no to a bunch. What about, the question is, what about building a brand or buying a brand is exciting? But I think more broadly, the question for me is like, what's a hell yes versus hell no when should I do a fucking dinner for whatever? Or should I go to this event? Or like, how does Nick, the D2C guy, Sharma, evaluate opportunity?
It's a good question. So I think, all right, if it's like a dinner or an event that I get invited to, it really depends on who else is there. If I'm going to for example, there was a sponsored dinner we all were at a few months ago. The reason I said yeah to go to that was because you both were there, and I'd never met Cody, and you live in Philly, so I never get to see you. And so I was like, all right, that's a great opportunity to go hang with these two. And so for me, it's all about the people. You know, there was another dinner that I did out in California a few months ago, and I got to meet some really awesome founders there. And I knew they were going to be there, so I was excited to go. And I already had a bunch of questions I wanted to ask them and things I wanted to learn about. And so for me, that made sense to go. As far as events, it really depends. I would say most events I don't go to just because they're generally centered around happy hours. And I don't drink, as you guys know. So even all this alcohol behind me, don't drink. So happy hours just generally aren't that fun to me. I'd rather just like stay at home and work, or
Bust it out
grab
at
a smoothie with somebody.
Bust it out at a Soul Cycle or something like that.
Yeah, go to a Soul Cycle class. But I think it really depends on like, all right, what am I going to actually get out of this? Because, if I'm not this sounds really cringe, but if I'm not being compensated to be there and there's nothing in it for me, like there's just nothing in it, why would I go?
I'm not mad at the compensation piece. I think that, especially on D2C Twitter, we've been seeing it a lot lately, that people get bent out of shape when other people are looking to get a bag. Like, I think there's so much free, as Ty Lopez would say, knowledge, on Twitter. And it's like, I think that's totally fine for people to want to get compensated for their time. Or I think about it a lot for my own self. It's like, what am I switching out? I think it was Mr. Bezos that said that, whereas like for every yes, you switch out something else for a no, or I just maybe misappropriated the whole thing and someone entirely different said that. But yeah, for me, it's like, what am I saying no to? Now that I have a wife and a kid, It's like I'm leaving my wife and kid at home to eat pizza at somebody's backyard. Like, it's probably not fun for me, but I'm with it. I hear you. Cody, what makes you say yes?
Eli and I are like the most introverted people in the world. Like, it's got to be like someone we really want to talk to, or like something really fun. I mean, no one's paying us yet to show up anywhere. Like, if you're listening and you're hosting an event,
well, I should say it's not like I get paid. It's not like I get paid to show up. But if it's like, for example, if a portfolio company's having a dinner, I'm there. If a friend is having a dinner, I'm there. If you guys are having a dinner, I'm there. But if it's like, hey, we're a finance company in e-commerce and we're throwing a happy hour, we'd love to have you there. I'm like, all right, what would I get out of this that I couldn't go get on my own? And also, is that it's never like 30 minutes. It's happy hour is like a 2-hour commitment, right? So like, all right, is that 2-hour commitment worth saying, yeah, exactly what you were saying, Eli, saying no to, the 50 emails I have to get back to tonight before I sleep anyways, that I'll just stay up later to get done. Or is it worth, eating fried chicken versus like having a better home cooked meal, those types of things.
Yeah,
pros and
for
cons.
Sure. All right, so I want to go one or two more questions back to the brand, right? What's your plan for growth? I know you talk a ton in your newsletter about growth strategies. Like, what's your plan? What did you see that they either weren't doing well or just weren't doing it all that you knew you could plug in? I know you can plug in all your systems and all of your network, but like what specifically gave you the confidence to know that you could take this brand to the next level?
All right, so the reviews were astonishingly great. Like, the product is phenomenal. The repeat rate is really high. Great subscription business. They just weren't hitting the gas as hard as they probably could have. And you could also argue that maybe they just weren't 100% sure how to hit the gas as hard as they could have. And so,
and is that on paid? Is that organic? Is that everything?
Yeah, I think it's on everything. It's like, it's on paid. It's on, partnering with creators. It's on syndicating, or not syndicating, but seeding product to creators. It's on organic TikTok. It's on, getting Eli to comment on a TikTok video, make a response, and then we run that as an ad.
He will do that for free product any day.
This is true. This is true. I keep saying I'm a really easy one. You send me shit and I post it. It's gotten me into trouble, but like, amazing.
Yeah, no,
amazing.
I think there's a lot of opportunity. Even going out to a lot of the existing customer base, a lot of them have tried one product, but they haven't tried some of the other products. And it's not because they have seen it and they didn't want to try it, it's because they've just never been asked. So yeah, I'm excited to see what we can do with that.
So a ton of emails, a ton of like revising flows, I imagine, like all the heavy lifting on the bottom, and then you're thinking about growth. And I guess the other question I would have from a CX standpoint, as far as like operations and logistics and all that, is that something you're taking on, or is that something they have an existing fulfillment situation set up?
No, so they were doing all of this themselves. And so, after we signed the contract, they were like, all right, where do we ship this container? It's a 40-foot container.
You look around your apartment, I'm like, I don't have room for it here.
Yeah. I remember being like, can I get it to my apartment?
Amazing.
But no, I actually initially texted Moyes and I was like, hey, do you have an industrial office somewhere here that you like, I don't know, just have? And he was like, no, dude, I don't make my own products. And so there's a really great production company that he's worked with for years, and I've actually known the founder for a couple years as well. And so we partnered up with her to produce all the product, and then we partnered up with a proper 3PL company to actually go ship the product. So we produce in Dallas, or in Austin, we ship out of Dallas. And 2 weeks ago, actually right after Miami, that's where I went. I went straight to Austin, spent a day at the production facility, met with everybody, drove to Dallas, bought a Shopify app on MicroAcquire on the way.
Boss.
And then, it was a hilarious moment. And then, went and met everybody on the floor of the fulfillment center. Got to teach them a little bit about the product. And then, yeah, it was cool. It was the first time I'd ever been in a fulfillment center. And so that was also really cool to see.
Yeah. I mean, I bet being based in Austin, you get pretty solid coverage and shipping rates and times across the country, which is fun. I think the other really insightful thing I think about starting a business that's not like fully from scratch is you get to kind of really flex that middle stage of a business growth. I think like people that I've seen in D2C are obsessed with like beginning 0 to 1. And then there's like the growth people that are focusing from like 100 million to 7 trillion. But I think there's not a ton of people that are like taking an idea that's somewhat fleshed out and growing it to, I don't know, 8-9 figures. When does this launch?
So we spent a couple extra weeks flushing out a whole new kind of rebrand for the brand, updating the site. So I think that actually gets done next week, and we'll probably launch by the end of next week.
Exciting. That's awesome.
Wow.
That's cool. So who's running?
Yeah.
Like, do you have somebody running this brand? Do you have people in place? How
Yeah,
involved
so we
are
have,
you day to day?
I'd say I'm pretty involved. We have a brand manager that's full-time job is overseeing this. Mm-hmm. And then we have an operations person. So basically, one person on the brand, one person on ops, and then, our Sharma brands team kind of plugs in across all things with creative and media and content and landers and website and development and, all that kind of stuff.
Dope. That's awesome. All right. So to switch gears a little bit. So you've got this brand, you've got Sharma brands, you've got tons of clients, you've got, Nick Sharma, your personal brand, right? You got the newsletter, you're doing your own podcast. How the hell do you have time for all of this? What's your secret?
Don't say 8 hours of sleep, because we all know that's BS. This man's not sleeping.
Last night. I got 8 last night.
I don't.
Cody's got the Whoop data.
Yeah, I'll check. I'll verify.
Well, so a few, over a year ago, I listened to this podcast that Justin Mayers did, the Kettle and Fire founder. Mm-hmm. And, I've always kind of admired how Justin has done, Justin has got his hands in a ton of things as well. And, the way he talked about it was really interesting, which was that, he starts a business, he kind of does it himself to get to about 5 or 6 figures. And then he brings a team in around it, and then he kind of hires himself out of it. And so for me, that was, starting with Sharma Brands, although I was probably in the weeds for a lot longer than I should have been. Then we started a company called 1180, me and Scott Swanson. And 1180 is a branded content studio where we work with a bunch of, hyper growth brands that are spending anywhere from $500,000 to $1 million a month. And then we started, so then 1180 started taking off, and then we started building a team around that. And then we just started Hooks, which is, basically just landing pages as a service. And same thing there. We just started building a team. We have a GM, we have UX designers, we have, a COO. And then same thing I'll do with these brands. So we've got one that we're launching internally from scratch in August. We've got the one that I just bought, and, I'll do the same thing. I'll kind of run it mainly myself as like the acting operator, I guess, until we're getting to a point where we're consistently hitting that 6-figure revenue per month. And then I'll just slowly hire in 1 or 2 people.
Are you like, how many hours a week are you working? Are you overwhelmed? Are you stressed? Or are you like chilling because you have a really good team in place? Because I would be overwhelmed if I were you. I'm overwhelmed with what I'm currently doing. I would be overwhelmed.
It's an interesting balance. Like there's some days, well, there's a couple things that I have to do to just keep my sanity. One of them is getting good sleep. The other one is like trying to sweat at least every day, if not then every other day.
The stress gummies?
Yeah, the stress gummies from House of Wise. Right there. And, so that helps kind of balance. But then I guess the other thing, it sounds so cliche, but there's nothing I would rather be doing than this. Like, I get so much enjoyment out of this and so much excitement out of doing all this stuff that to me, it never feels like I'm working. Like when I wake up in the morning, I get really excited. Sunday nights, I'm pumped for Monday. Tonight going to sleep, like I'll be excited for what's on my calendar tomorrow morning. And I think the other thing is like the people that we have, like the people at Sharma Brands and 1180 and Hooks, and they're just such fun people to work with. Like there's nothing bad about, or there's nothing that I see as like, darn, I have to do that tomorrow. It's all exciting to me.
I mean, I think the other thing that's super cool about what you've built, and I've been in the Sharma Brands office once or twice, just hanging out with the crew, and I think it honestly feels like a bunch of friends just fucking around and having a good time, which I think is very, very rare. I think businesses in general aren't generally built that way, where it's just like people having a good time. They happen to be doing it for a living, which I think is an anomaly, and it does feel like you're taking a little bit too little credit for prioritization. Like I think you've probably at this point gotten really, really good at figuring out time.
You're really humble. Stop being so humble, please.
Seriously. No, I think figuring out like time, like what, I think if it's spending X hours a day on this, even if it's not down to the minute, like somewhat figuring it out, because the thing that I learned pretty early on is like, you work later, you get less sleep, you're less effective. I think it's like, it's a catch-22. Like people only have X amount of hours in a day. And I don't buy the idea that you can hustle for 18 hours a day and still be effective. I think that those people are, I don't want to have too many hot takes.
All right, we're throwing shots. We're starting.
Yeah. I mean, I think the other thing is, I think there's 2 things there. One is, from a culture standpoint, like the way that I want people to come into Sharma Brands or work with me across anything. Like I want people to work with me for like 10 years, not like a year and change and then they go get another job somewhere else and then they just bop around. And so I think everything that we do, we kind of create with that in mind. And then the other one is, I would say this past year, I got really good at just understanding where I could optimize time better, or what are things that I could not be doing more of and use my time elsewhere more effectively. So like one of those things was hiring a project manager for myself. or just hiring an extra this person or an extra that person. And not only does that help kind of everybody balance out their workload better and be a little less stressed, but cohesively, it always makes for a better product. There was one quote actually I read, I don't remember where it was, but it was basically, it just said, good employees pay for themselves, and I've realized that to just be true.
Do you have any downsides to being so close to people on your team? Do you ever feel like it makes it a little bit harder? Obviously there's so many the pros of the culture being great, but maybe people slack a little bit, or maybe it's a little bit harder to get feedback or reviews. Do you think there's any downsides?
You would think there would be downsides in terms of you can't tell somebody that they're slacking off, or they need to get their shit together. But yeah, we haven't had any of those issues. I mean, I've definitely had times where I've been like, all right, you gotta get your shit together. This isn't cool. But then, after that conversation, we're good again.
I think the interesting thing, and we talk about this, Cody and I talk about this often in terms of culture. I think Jones is pretty early in our journey, in general, just a small team pretty early on in the business. But, we thought about this at Olipop as well. It's like, it's really, really difficult to hire B players and then run after them versus hiring A players and just letting them go. And I think it was kind of forced on us at Olipop because everyone was remote. So if you're hiring somebody remote and you're constantly checking, are they working? It just makes you absolutely insane. So it kind of forced us to think about that. Yeah, it just forced us to think about are we hiring A players? If we're hiring A players, obviously there's a substantial, possibility that someone will burn out at a certain point. But if you know that the baseline is that they're crushing and kicking ass, it kind of makes it a lot easier. So I think that's also something that I've learned, I guess, over the last year or two.
Yeah, completely agreed.
What do you look for, Nick? One more kind of thing on team, and then we'll switch gears. What do you look for when you're hiring? Are there kind of certain skills or qualities that you found that your best employees have?
Yeah. I think the first thing that we try to check the box is culture fit. I always have this two quotes. One is work hard and be nice. The second one is there's enough for everybody to eat together. And so, does this person basically have those two, I don't know if they're traits, but values, I guess.
Yeah. So you're looking for people first, good people.
I'm looking for people first. Yeah, exactly. And then the second one is, how genuinely excited are they about what we're doing? Because, I've hired two of my really early employees were people who had never worked in this space before. But I knew that they were so excited to get in here that they would be able to learn fast enough. And I think I do that because I was also that person. I had no right going to Hint and doing direct consumer. But I was so excited about it that I was able to completely learn it inside and out. And so I think I look for that quality in a lot of people. And then, the last one is just can they do their job, which is the most fundamental. But on top of that, it's how excited are they? Are they super ambitious? Do they want to get, to the next level in their career, whether it be on their own down the line or with me or with Sharma Brands? And then, are they a culture fit in the team that we're trying to build, which again is I want this team to stay together for a decade.
That's everything. I mean, I think that how excited are they is everything, especially I'm sure, you guys are growing really fast. It seems like you're always adding people and taking on new brands like Jones Road. We're growing incredibly fast. And we just don't have time for babysitting, and obviously there's a certain level of management that has to happen, but you also do need enough of those A players that are just going to take initiative and get the job done.
The other thing that I was thinking about over the last couple of days is there's so much focus on learning, and I think there's not enough focus on unlearning. It's almost anyone can learn anything if they put their mind to it. I'm more likely to hire somebody, to your point, Nick, that has a tremendous passion for CX and has done it for 10 minutes versus somebody that did it a decade at HP, because I don't want them to do what they did at HP here. And I think that's even at Jones, it's for some of the roles, like we don't need somebody with a decade of experience. We want somebody that's super passionate. I mean, I have zero experience in beauty, but I'm fucking obsessed with CX. And I remember that being Bobby's first question on the interview is like, you're a dude that never touched makeup. Why should I hire you? Which I said was like, that's probably the best question anyone's asked.
What was your
and
answer?
I think
Because your answer was so good, though. I mean, it got you the job.
Yeah, I mean, like the other person was, she said the other person I'm talking to has a decade plus experience at a very luxury, beauty brand. And I said, to be honest, it sounds like the other person's a great candidate and you probably can't go wrong by hiring them. I think, I said, I think you, Bobby, built $1 billion brand by doing things differently. And I'm the person that'll do things differently. And I'm very excited to do that. And I don't think it makes a difference. Like I've come from the luggage space to sell chicken nuggets and healthy soda. I think I can figure out beauty. And to be honest, like shocker, customers are the same. They want to be validated and heard in both beauty and suitcases. There's not many differences other than product, which is easy to learn. I think unlearning is much harder.
All right, let's talk landing pages real quick. Nick, you're known as a big landing page guy. You've written like an awesome report. I know you just, created a new brand. What's it called?
Hooks.
I was going to call it Hooks, so I'm glad I didn't say it.
Yeah.
What's to you, what makes a good landing page, and what's like one surprising thing that you've learned when testing landing pages that you probably didn't think beforehand?
All right. So what makes a good landing page? A couple things. One is does when you're creating a page, are you fully empathetic to the source of the traffic and the intent of the customer? So that makes a huge difference. So in my head, the way I see it, I see this like grid, right? Intent is on one axis and source is on the other. Depending on where this person comes in, if they're coming from TikTok with low intent, that page has got to speak one way. If they're coming from Instagram with high intent, that page has got to be laid out in another way. If they're coming from, for example, Taboola with low intent, the entire format of that page is going to be completely different. So I think that's a big one. The second one is, a very simple, does it answer 4 questions? What is the product? How does it benefit me? Why is this the best option available on the market today? And how do I buy it? And, good landers basically just answer those 4 questions over and over and over again. Every time you scroll, it's just answering those questions. So that combined with, understanding the source of the traffic and the intent, in my mind, makes a good lander. Then you could basically, I think you could sell anything to anyone.
Yeah. And what's like a test that like a tactical test that like listeners could take away and like, hey, you should have this on your page because we've tested it and it almost always converts better. Is it having like, a certain thing with the buy box?
Yeah. I mean, there's a few nuggets that always work. One is like, people tend to focus on features versus benefits. The example I gave in my email yesterday was like, if you're a beauty device tool, you might say, this device will help your skin become wrinkle-free and smoother and much softer. Or, this device is, you charge it once, it lasts you 2 weeks. But the benefit is not listed there. And so you're not able to read that as a consumer and understand, or personify it in your head. But if it said something like, your ticket to smoother skin in 2 weeks, you're like, all right, I'm in.
Look at this guy.
What is it? And so I think benefits versus features is a big one that a lot of people I think talk about but don't really practice. The other one is breaking down the cost. So when you think about landing pages, cost is obviously these are people with lower intent generally that are coming to most of your landing page traffic. And so you always got to think about, how do you help shape the cost in somebody's mind that, they're making a good decision. Basically, with every landing page, your goal as a marketer is to instill so much confidence in this person that they are making the right decision from the get-go, that they themselves want to make a purchase. And a simple example I remember with Hydrant, which is an electrolyte mixer, was, I think we were selling a variety pack for $28 or $29, a 1 month supply. Essentially, it was 30 sticks. And, we had the price, and then we tested the price with underneath the buy button saying, less than $1 a day. And the less than $1 a day just dramatically increased conversion. Our CPA dropped a ton. So that was huge. Another big one for any kind of food, bev, or really even beauty products is having the nutrition labels or the ingredient list very clearly displayed. That was something I realized that not a lot of people, I didn't think a lot of people cared for that. Turns out everybody cares for that. And I just live in a bubble.
Mm-hmm. So you're just trying to get all of the information, any question that a customer would be asking if they were to go in and talk to a potential sales rep. You're just trying to say, hey, here it is. Like, let's put it right in front of you.
Yeah, the best way to think about a landing page is like, all right, if you go into a store, you guys have a Jones Road store, right?
Yeah.
So if somebody walks into the Jones Road store, when somebody walks into the store, a store associate might see them walk in and kind of just look at them and realize, okay, based on what this person's wearing or, their shoes or their body language, I'm going to walk them through this exact route within the store. And that's kind of what you're doing with the landing page. That's why you want to qualify them, or not qualify, but that's why you want to think through their traffic source and the intent of this customer. Because depending on that, you'll merchandise the page differently, or you'll hit different value props, or you'll talk about a product in a different way, or you'll have different pricing options than other traffic sources. And so I think of it a lot very similar to like somebody walking into a retail store. How would you walk them through that store?
So what's a tactical example of how you would treat somebody differently on a landing page depending on where they're coming from? Say it's Facebook or Instagram versus TikTok. Like if it's a different intent, what would you do differently on that page?
Well, I think there's one that you do really well, which is you have your TikTok traffic go straight to a listicle before they hit your site.
We go listicle
which is a great example.
Is what we found works best.
Yeah, listicle to quiz, which is a great way to treat that traffic that is probably a lot higher funnel. They're on a mobile device coming from a platform that scrolls extremely fast. If they click that ad, then they're also, they're coming from something where they're just flicking it up and down every 20 seconds. And so they're kind of looking for something quick, right? So your 5 reasons listicle, it gets them in the door, they read it, and then boom, now they're playing with their thumb again. And so that to me was a really smart one.
I promise I wasn't like fishing for a compliment there, but thank you.
And then, you compare that to like we did a search. We tried to help Eat Sleep optimize their Google search ads.
You work with literally every DTC brand. Like every time, it's crazy how many you work with.
Is that why he's the DTC guy?
It must be.
It's searchable. It's verifiable.
It is searchable.
Yeah.
Whereas, with them, they were, if you're searching for a $2,000 mattress or you're thinking about buying a $2,000 mattress, obviously as a consumer, you're going to go find, the 6 other alternatives. And so in that landing page, for example, we did what's called like we basically did a side-by-side comparison down the entire page, Eat Sleep versus its competitors. Or you could do what's called a comparacle, which is like a listicle, but like, you versus a competitor. And so yeah, I guess any others, like what specifically tactically could I answer?
No, that's helpful. I think just overall to summarize it, it's like you're just trying to think of like what is their mindset for where they're coming from. Knowing obviously if it's search, they're looking for it, right? It's demand capture. They're looking for a solution. So you probably have to compare it to a competitor. If it's TikTok, they're going super fast. It's more top of funnel. Like don't waste their time. You got to hook them in pretty quickly. Versus if it's Instagram, Facebook, like they're ready to buy right now. You got to give them like all of the information and then send them to checkout. Is that a fair summary?
Yeah, pretty fair.
I think one of the reasons why like I find you really interesting and love talking to you about this stuff is like you're obviously originally a growth marketer, but I've never heard you talk about numbers. You're never like, oh, we got this conversion rate and this. You're like, when you talk about optimizing things,
Oh,
like
should I start posting Shopify screenshots?
Yeah,
Is that
I think
what you're looking
so.
for?
Exactly. No, I think you could, but I'm just saying, like, you're always thinking in terms of customer, and kind of very customer centric, and also brand, right? And obviously, I'm very vocal about brand. I'm originally a performance marketer, Facebook ads guy. Like, even Eli is like a CX and retention guy. Like, he's a big brand guy. Like, I find that interesting. That you're again originally a growth guy, and you're talking about ads and landing pages, all this stuff. But it never is coming at the expense of brand equity. And if anything, you coin, what do you call it? Is it brand first, performance brand, or performance branding? Right? Like, where did that appreciation come from? Because I know obviously that was probably learned for you.
Yeah, so that actually came from when I was at Hintwater. I got to the company, I opened the Facebook ads account, and I basically see, they're sending paid traffic to all levels of intent, prospecting, retargeting, remarketing, to, essentially a landing page that's like, buy a sparkling and a still case of watermelon. So 2 cases of watermelon, 1 sparkling, 1 still, get 20% off. It's, 0 sugar, 0 calories, 0 sweeteners, flavored water, buy it here. So, I'm looking at the click-through rate, I'm looking at the CPC, and I'm just like, damn, I was just, so before Hint, I used to work at an ad tech company, and where actually I was doing this freelance, but before that, I learned it at an ad tech company where I would help a lot of these, those shitty publishers at the bottom of Taboola. That's like, you don't know what, you won't believe what this celebrity looks like 20 years later. I would run those on Facebook and realize that, oh, these guys are spending $200,000 a day on Taboola and Outbrain. Why can't we spend like 20-30% of that on Facebook if I could do it efficiently? And so I got really good at that. And over there, I was getting, CPCs that were like 2 cents, 3 cents, 4 cents. And so when I got to Hint, yeah, exactly. So when I got to Hint, I was like, damn, these guys are paying $5. If I was getting even 10 cent CPC,
they were paying $5
I get
per click?
50 more chances. Yeah.
And this was obviously a while ago when things were a lot cheaper too.
Yeah, this was like 2017. So, I thought, all right, if I can get this down to even 10 cents, that gives me 50 more chances in the same chance that they take 1 chance. And so I just started focusing on that. I was like, all right, how do we get, it's really about like content being entertaining. So how do we create entertaining content or content that people actually look forward to clicking? And so that's kind of where that performance branding started, was how can we build brand equity on the back of our working performance dollars? And so we're not sacrificing brand or what the story of the brand is, but we're also not sacrificing our paid media numbers. And, that tactic worked out really well at Hint, and it's worked out well ever since. But it's also the idea, I think when I was a kid, I consumed a lot of Gary Vee, and his whole thing was always about the customer's always right and have empathy for the customer. A lot of
hustle.
Yeah. And but it was kind of always drilled in my brain, like, all right, whatever you do, you got to invest in the customers versus try to play a game where you can trick the customers. And so, even with Hooks, the landing page business, we always say, like, the goal is not to create some kind of landing page where, with 1 click, we've got a whole funnel built out and a thing in your cart and then an upsell offer and this and that. The whole goal is like, how do we educate whoever comes to this landing page so much that they feel so confident in buying that $400 cookware set or that $300 weighted blanket? It's not about like tricking them. It's about arming them with confidence that they feel that they're making the right decision.
I think it's so fascinating to me because on the retention side, I think about this so often, where 90% of businesses that come to me for any sort of like question around retention, it's like, my sales are crushing, my growth is ridiculous, but I need retention help. And you find out that they have like 7 people on the growth team and have never looked at retention. And it's like, here, come here, fix my shit. And in reality, it's like, if you've gone at growth without this performance brand lens, you're just basically, in my opinion, you're front loading a whole bunch of revenue because you're like, fuck it, the wallet's open. Let me squeeze more. Let me upsell. Let me cross sell. And that's Cody and I, that's what we connected. That's like, as marketers, I think there aren't many marketers that think the way you two think around, like, obviously marketing and growing the business and acquiring customers, but in a way that feels sensible and is focused on customer and LTV play versus like quick, get all the dollars and never see them again.
I feel like they're definitely not. I think there's more retention marketers that I think operate from a customer centric, stance and think empathy and play the long game. And I know, Eli, obviously you hate when people spray and pray and blast emails and like upsell. So there definitely are retention marketers who don't, but I feel like it's really rare. There aren't a lot of growth marketers who I think this way. And most people are so focused on their CAC and what their click-through rate is and what their conversion rate is. And they'll do whatever it takes to get it at the expense of how the customer is going to feel about that brand long-term.
Yeah.
All the KPIs.
I think too, like, I think I was also lucky in the sense that I started direct to consumer in beverage, where it was so important to have a really solid retention engine. Half of our revenue was subscription, 30% of our revenue was driven by email. And it was all about, like, again, serving the customer so they feel confident in making a purchase because it's a beverage. No one had ever bought beverage online before that. So I would stay in the office till 11 at night responding to Facebook comments on ads because I also knew that if I did that, one, we'd get a subscriber significantly faster. But two, our CPA the next day drops by like 15% because we have a lot of engagement. And also three, they were just generally happier customers.
If you're growing fast, just like we are, you know exactly how hard cash flow management can be. You've got customers to acquire, you've got ads to fund, you've got inventory to finance, especially if you don't want to dilute yourself by raising a round. What options do you have? Enter Wayflyer. With Wayflyer, you can get fast, flexible funding from $10K to $20 million at the best possible rates. No collateral, no dilution, just the funding you need to improve your working capital and help you grow your business. Join the thousands of businesses using Wayflyer to fund their growth. Go to wayflyer.com/pod to learn more.
That makes me so happy. I think that's spot on. And we think about this a lot at Olipop, we were also at a point we were like 50-something% subscription, and beverage as a whole, I think you're spot on. It's like low AOV, high LTV if you're doing it well. And I think it forces you to think that way versus like the world that I came from before, which was luggage. You get them in one purchase and you're done, right? It's like, you get them on that one purchase, you never see them again, you're still fine. I think the thing that I love about this way of thinking is that regardless whether you're in luggage or beverage, I think what people hesitate to think about is like what happens after that customer, like the word of mouth, the non-trackable thing. Mm-hmm. Whereas if somebody has a great experience with your brand, it doesn't stop there. Like, as marketers, we love things that we can track, but it doesn't stop. Like if somebody has a great experience with your brand, regardless of if they purchase 9 times, they still have the potential to tell others. Which is something Cody and I talk about, but I think it's,
and I'm a little different.
It's a great
I was
framework.
Like hardcore, like Facebook ads are all that matters. Like I did appreciate LTV because like I knew that if you got your LTV up, you can spend more for your allowable CAC, right? Your allowable CPA could go up. But I still think I was probably very much in terms of like, let's upsell them this, let's like set up this flow. It wasn't really in terms of like, can we just treat them really well and provide them a really good experience and hoping if they enjoy it, like they'll naturally come back, And for me, like everything had to be very trackable. And now I think I have a much greater appreciation for kind of that gray area for, maybe they're not seeing our ads and they're not purchasing from this directly, but maybe they're remembering it because we gave them value and we educated them and made them feel that something is possible. And then that'll show up later on through email or organic search or something like that.
Totally.
I think the last thing I'll say on that is that as brands, we're always like, oh, if we don't remind them, they won't repurchase. But as customers, we understand that if we're using something that's replenishable and you finish it, you're going to repurchase. Like if your body wash runs out, you're going to fucking buy more. Yeah. You don't have to be reminded every Tuesday. And if you're not buying more, you switch it out for a different brand. Right. And if you switch it out for the different brand, the product wasn't good enough. Yeah. That's like my thought with Olipop. It's like, The people that love it are buying it every week. You don't have to remind them every Tuesday with a text saying like, buy our shit. When they finish it, they'll buy it, right? I think with beauty, it's different because you have to like give them the use cases. Like, hey, here's another way you can use it. But I think product's good enough. You're gonna repeat purchase. Sounds like Nick has to go because he's saying a lot of okay. And
No, I'm good.
Do you have a hard stop?
No, I don't. I was thinking in my head, like we should stay on for another 3 hours.
Yeah, this guy doesn't need 9 hours.
To give context,
3 only.
To give context, we're at a breezy 8 p.m. The funny part about this is if you're watching this on video, Nick and I are both vibing in the natural light over here. So it's going to get dark. It's going to get cozy. I mean, I'm not opposed to it. I think the most exciting part of this whole podcast is Cody had like an underrated, overrated. I feel like if we don't get to that,
let's do it.
The fans are not going to be.
Were there any questions
not going to be
on
into
Twitter
it
that we should do?
I got a few good ones. Yeah.
We already do some of them.
I got a few. So not necessarily underrated, overrated, right? But we'll get a little bit more controversial. We'll get into it. What's something in DTC something common in DTC that you never want to see again? You'd be happy if you never saw it. And also, I'm going to ask you too. We'll all think of answers.
All right.
Gosh,
something
we're gonna
common
get canceled.
in DTC that I don't want to see again. I think like when I see pitch decks, and actually, Cody, we were sent the same, or maybe I sent this one to you,
I know
where I saw like an $8 acquisition cost. I was like, guys, come on. We all know that's you don't have an $8 acquisition cost. You haven't even launched. You can't test this, and it's just a straight up lie. And correlated with that, I think the other one is like decks that try to validate their business based off of acquisition cost to LTV analysis, because those aren't brands; those are just products with marketing engines. And the first one is just a delusional founder.
Straight, you heard it here first. Nick hates BS pitch decks and delusional founders.
Your pitch deck.
I think it's amazing. I mean, my thing, and this isn't a secret, I absolutely hate the hacks. Like all the hacks when it comes to like emails where it's like reply, forward this person, forward this to 10 people so that you don't kill a chicken, like all that kind of chaotic.
Are you also talking about
like
the subject line being like RE colon?
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. I think all these things, they work once and you dilute your open rate. Like I think the craziest open rate I've ever seen is probably at Jones, where we're like 50-60% open and on every email. And it's because we never do hacks. Like this is a list that wasn't from a list giveaway. This wasn't like a swap of a list. This was like genuinely people interested, and we send them the right message to the right person, the right time. There's no gimmicks. There's no hacks. And I think that's the thing I fucking hate. And I'd be okay if it died tomorrow, is all these kind of hacks that get you an extra $5 today, but they dilute your brand tomorrow.
Yeah. That's so funny you say that. I think,
you're about to do that on your newsletter next week.
No.
Did you get this?
Yeah. No, you know what's funny is until I had my own newsletter, I never really was super empathetic about that type of stuff. But now that it's like my audience and I feel like I could lose it at any second, I would absolutely not do any of those gimmicks. But I do remember like when I was at Hint, I definitely did some kind of forward colon stuff. I remember specifically Brooke Linen, I think, did it for Black Friday one year, maybe like 3 years ago, where it was like a forwarded email from the marketing team to somebody else to test the coupon code, which I thought was done in a creative way and a kind of a fun way. But yeah, no, I completely agree. I think a lot of those hacks just suck. And there's also like, especially in email, I think there's so much opportunity. Like if you look at your other tab in Superhuman or Gmail or whatever you use, there's just so much garbage that comes through as sales emails all the time. And I always think a good KPI for brand emails is like, all right, what could somebody read and then go bring up at the dinner table later that night? Like if that's something your email has, that's a pretty good email. You'll keep your open rate high, your quality stays high. But yeah, if you're just throwing gimmicks out, or you're throwing sales for the benefit of like getting an extra $1 today, it just doesn't last.
And the funny thing is, like, the caveat I'll say is it does work. Like, that's the part that sucks, is like, it'll always work for the first time, right? Like, if you're hitting the end of the month and you need an extra couple of $1,000s, like if you send that email with a crazy hack, it'll work. It's just like it's an LTV thing, right? It's like long-term
game are you playing?
Customers won't open your emails.
What game are you playing? Like, how are you, you know, what, I'm not trying to say the attribution word, but like, what time horizon are you trying to optimize for, you know? And understand, like, you'll get whatever you optimize for. So it's
been 52 minutes and Cody just dropped the A word.
Are we going to discuss that here?
Amazing.
No? Yeah.
We're going to get to it.
We're going to talk about?
I thought you wanted to talk about your beef on Twitter.
Attribution.
Yeah, I was just hoping that would pass. So if you guys got any questions, I'll answer it. If not, you're the guest here. I'm going to ask you a question.
No, I'm good. Let's continue.
All right, let me
let it pass.
One.
No, he has to answer.
Question. Yeah. So the one thing I hope I never see again is UGC ads that start with "Do you struggle with?" or some kind of "Do you have this problem?"
Oh gosh.
I am so sick of seeing UGC. I'm going to say that in quotes because it's not UGC. I don't know why we call it UGC. It's paid content creators that charge a few $100 per video that just make ads. And everyone says, especially on TikTok, like, make TikToks, not ads. Just because you film something on an iPhone doesn't mean that's a TikTok. It's a straight up ad. You're not giving any value. There's no education. There's no motivation. There's no persuasion. It's just a list of features and benefits. And do you struggle with this? I'm like, I don't know about you guys. When I see it, I just scroll right past it. It's just so clearly an ad. There's no value. I think, first of all, we've tested things like that, again, I've seen a lot of people do, so we tested them. They have all performed so terribly. The click-through rates have been so awful for us. And even if they do convert, again, it's one of the things where it's like, to me, that's harming brand equity. I don't want to put that out there. I want to lead with value. I want to actually put out ads out there, especially on TikTok, that people don't realize they're ads, because whether people buy or not, they're actually helping people. They're uplifting them, giving them, some motivation, but also actually educating them about the problem that they're having, in a way where even if they don't buy our product, they're still better off. So that's my rant about this fake UGC.
I think it's really interesting. Yeah, no, I completely agree. I feel like in the last 3 or 4 months, I've seen a wave of people on Twitter show up as like UGC ad creator. Have you guys seen that?
So many. Oh my God, so many.
There's a lot of them.
A lot. There's a lot. Every day there's more.
But also I've been seeing just like terrible UGC ads, which sucks because like UGC ads work really well when they're actually authentic and genuine, and it's real. It's somebody who's truly a longtime fan of the brand or really deeply enjoys the product. I remember we worked with a cleaning brand 2 years ago. They weren't really able to make money with their ads, and they were about to shut the business down. We got the product, like our whole team received a shipment of the product. And I mean, to this day, I use that same product, but the product was just a phenomenal product. It was like probably one of the best cleaning products I've ever used in my life. And I just thought like, wow, these guys have just been marketing it completely wrong the entire time. And so, Bailey and Carly made ads of the product because they also loved it so much. And within 6 weeks, the business was on a $7 million run rate for the year. With, profitable on every purchase. And it was because the content was so good, because it was like genuine. It wasn't, a $200 paid UGC, which also is just a phenomenal business if you're like a solo creator looking to make extra cash. But it doesn't work, and it's not sustainable because you can't be such a big fan of 69 brands a month. It's just impossible. And also you can't, as somebody who just gets a brief, again, you're just reading a brief. You're not like, you're not a true fan of that brand, or it didn't really solve a problem for you, which is, as you know, or what most people probably know, hopefully know, is like every ad just has to solve a problem. Like it has to give value. Otherwise you're not going to get a click, especially today.
I mean, customers also smell through the bullshit, right? Totally. It's like customers can smell through, aside from seeing the same person in 27 ads, I think customers smell through it. And we've seen, Cody and I were talking about this, like there are certain creators, I mean, Kristen from Suit Shop is one of them, that like when we did stuff at Olipop, like she was a genuine fan. When she shot things, it was incredible. Like customers resonated with it because she drank a can or two every day, right? I think it's like, people actually realize like you're not a fucking Hollywood actress, and people realize that it's not legit.
One funny thing
Yeah.
that did happen was so last year we worked with probably 3 or 4 brands or 5 brands that like Bailey and Carly specifically all did ads for, but they were all like customers of it. A lot of the brands we work with, we tend to be huge fans of anyways. And so, one was like Starface, one was Poopery, one was June Shine, and I'm sure there's 1 or 2 others in there. And they start getting DMs like, "Hey, you're the poop spray girl," or they'll get comments on their Instagram, or like, June Shine will run an ad and they'll be like, "Hey, wait, I thought you were selling, pimple patches."
Amazing.
I'm going to call Bailey.
Amazing. I think we underestimate
Bailey the poop spray girl from now on.
Yeah,
that's good.
Yeah, I think we underestimate that the customers aren't morons. Which
I mean, one last thing I'll say in that is like we've that fake UGC has bombed for us, but we've also gotten some stuff from real customers, and some of them were influencers, but they're like fans of the brand, like super close, VIP influencers, and we've gotten some stuff back from them, whether just throughout our own or through this app called Down To that's been great. And I get it. I'm like, oh, there's no hook on this. Like, they don't know how to create an ad. There's no hook. Like, this isn't going to perform. This stuff crushed it. Like, best thumb stop rate we've done, because it's just in best conversion rates, best click-through rates. It's just so authentic, and people can tell. And if you don't think people can tell, and if you don't think it matters, like, it matters. So, like, our new entire plan is, like, taking the long game. Like, we're seeding, we're sending products, we're actually building relationships, and only once we get a really genuine relationship with an influencer or a creator, then are we going to ask them for paid content for ads. But we're not going to go straight to that paid part, which is, I think, what a lot of brands are doing now.
Totally.
All right, Eli, what else we got? We got time for a few more.
Any Twitter questions?
So the super overrated is one. What is something that's super underrated? What's something, Nick, that you don't see enough of, like a tactic or a strategy that you feel like people are just sleeping on?
If this guy says landing pages, I'm leaving. I'm walking out.
Let's see. Honestly, I think one of the biggest, most slept on things, which honestly I credit like all of my, maybe 90% of my success at Hint to, is just telling the founder story. Like so many of these direct consumer brands, it's the modern day small business, or it's the modern day mom and pop shop. So many of them have such dope stories behind them, as to why they started, or how they discovered the innovation for the product that they sell. And like no one talks about it. They all go straight to value props that are just as good as any other competitive brand has. And so, like the once we start working with a brand, that we just think, okay, wait, what's the founding story? Like that is our first kickoff call, is like, tell us why you started this brand. We spend an hour on that. That's our kickoff. And it's just all about like, okay, well, are there different angles we can get out of that? Are there different things we're not thinking about? Why did this person start the brand? And I just think people really resonate with that. I remember one of my first consulting brands I ever worked with it was called Social Sparkling Wine. And I think it's still around today. It was a canned wine. And, this woman started it because she had cancer. She couldn't have the level of alcohol that's in normal wine. Or maybe it was a certain ingredient in normal wine. So she started this wine, and it was a great tasting wine. But I remember, turning on Facebook ads, and this was when I was building my own drag and drop unbounce pages. The page wasn't all that great, but it pretty much focused on like, here's a bundle, here's a deal to try it for you, and here's the founding story. The Facebook ad, it was like one massive paragraph you had to click see more to read. That was our best piece of creative, and it was just like, hey, my name is, I forget her name, my name is Sarah, and I started this brand because blah, blah, blah. And that was our best, highest scalable piece of creative. And really every brand that we work with, anytime we push the founding story, it just always wins, because It's like that is the ultimate UGC. Is a
Why do you
founder
think it works
telling
so
their
well?
story.
Why do you think it works so well? Why do you think people care about it?
Because
I
I
think
think
there's a
so.
lot of people, right, that are like, oh, brand doesn't matter. Customers don't care about your brand. They just want it. They just care about what's in it for them. Why do you think people resonate
Yeah.
with this so well?
Well, I do think that could be true. Like if you're selling, LaCroix, I don't think anybody cares because you're buying a commodity, really.
Okay.
But if you're not buying a commodity and you're choosing to buy the non-Amazon version of that product, whether it's cookware, whether it's flavored water, whether it's perfume, whatever it is, like vitamin C serum, for example, you can buy that at I bought it at Trader Joe's, $1.99, or you could buy it from Covey. But I think when people hear that story, they feel a connection personally, and everybody's kind of centered around whether we like it or not, or know it or not, or admit it. Like everybody's tied back to some type of belonging or community, and hearing a story of a person who if I read a story and there's a guy who's like, yeah, I grew up in an immigrant family, I dropped out of college, I felt the adversity, I'm like, oh shoot, I can relate to that. I'm gonna go support that guy instead of Bezos on Amazon getting his 3% kickback.
Yeah. No, I'd argue if it's a commodity, it's even more important because then that's the only way I'm going to choose your water over the one, that's everywhere and cheaper. Is if you have an amazing story, I'll probably be willing to spend.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's what that is exactly how we did it at Hint. I mean, the founding story got so big that the founder herself became her own media company. Almost 1 million fans on Facebook and a couple 100,000 everywhere else. And I remember one time we got invited to be a part of one of the media companies at the Ernst & Young Global Entrepreneur of the Year conference in Monaco, and we replaced the Associated Press there because they dropped out. So they invited the founder to come because her platform was bigger in daily reach than all of those other media companies combined where they were posting it.
That's crazy.
Wow.
You're also doing this obviously before TikTok, and TikTok. I think this
way
stuff
before.
But this stuff is great for TikTok, right? This kind of behind the scenes, super raw, authentic, right? Like this stuff can really crush it on TikTok organically and paid as well. So
totally,
I'm a huge fan. I mean, obviously we have a well-known founder, but we do a lot of it. I think we could do more of that, even like the
how would you run TikTok ads if your founder wasn't Bobby Brown?
That's a great question. I would still provide value. I wouldn't just be like, here's the thing, here's why you need to buy it, right? I would still provide value. So if it's makeup, I would still do beauty content tutorials. I'd probably do a little bit more of the story, depending on what the story is. I think that's great. Overlay that with some video replies and questions. I would still go, native to the platform in terms of, people on TikTok to be entertained, to be inspired, and to be educated. And I'd make sure I'm doing at least one of those in all videos instead of just, here's this product, here's why you need it. I wouldn't do that. But obviously, it's a huge advantage to have a very well-known founder.
Totally. And when you create TikToks, do you create them to do well organically, and then whatever does well or over indexes, you just bump that with paid?
Pretty much, yeah, exactly. There's definitely some stuff that does well organically that I don't test. I'm like, I don't think so. But there's been a lot that has been a really good organic one. And I wouldn't think, right? It's more of like a middle funnel angle hook that I wouldn't normally think of being for an ad, but it's worked super well. I think when you have, a decent amount of brand awareness and equity, like, there really is no top of funnel. Like you're not reaching new people with an ad on TikTok. But I also think like beauty is such an aware market. People are very aware of products and stuff like that. So you don't have to start problem all the time. You can actually start with a product, and especially if you have the name like foundation in it. So yeah, that's pretty much what we do. And then once we get something that kind of fatigues, we'll just edit a new hook. So in 3 seconds, the first, change up something and run it again.
And how much time a day do you spend in Ads Manager?
I check it way more than I do. Way more than I should. I mean, I'm still running.
Too much.
I check Facebook.
But like, do you have to? Are you optimizing multiple times a day with TikTok?
No. Most days I don't touch anything. I try to
Oh,
change it
okay.
as little as possible. It's, if it goes well, I'll bump budget. Turning an ad on and off, but no, it's not a ton. It's probably a few times a week I'll actually change anything.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Yeah, yeah. But no, it's crazy. I mean, everyone knows, and right, even for Facebook, it's like we've got these expensive $20K a month ad agencies, and we have to do full day shoots. TikTok, it's like we shoot on our phone, we shoot 5 in a
Yeah.
week. One of those we test as an ad. Hopefully, it works. Like it's so crazy how cheap and
I love
and easy
TikTok
it is
for
to
that
do.
though, because it's also like no bullshit.
It's no bullshit at all. It's super authentic. It's what
Yeah.
the people want. Although I do think, and I do
Honestly,
think people are.
I was gonna say the ads on TikTok honestly are more enjoyable to watch.
Yeah.
Like I find myself swiping through them
I
a
bought
lot
something
less
from
frequently
TikTok
than on
just
Facebook or
recently.
Instagram.
I just bought my first thing. What did you
TikTok
get?
Yeah.
made me buy it.
I bought a knife from Mizzen.
I
Yeah.
actually really want one of those.
They've been targeting the
Yeah.
life out of me.
I know they were targeting me too, and I don't remember what the creative was, but I bought it. But a lot of times, what I do enjoy doing is looking to see how people's landing pages differ coming from TikTok than like their main site. And the best ones are a lot of these like there's almost like this new era of drop shipping, which is like people find one product, they slap a label on it. It's like basically white labeled something. And a lot of these like supplements or face masks or these like night potions. I don't know if you guys get those, but like they have insanely creative TikTok creatives, but also very creative landers that like look horrible on desktop, but they work so beautifully in the TikTok browser.
That's a good point. You really don't even need to look at desktop if you're running different landing pages just on TikTok.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love TikTok. I can talk about TikTok all day. All right, let's do one more question, and then we'll let you go. We know you got to get your 9 hours of sleep. Eli, you got one or not?
I do not have one off. I mean, I can go rogue. I mean, I think that my thing that this is something I'm genuinely curious is as a friend. Something I struggle with is I'm like maxed out by the amount of connections I have. Like I'm not looking for new friends. I'm not looking for new acquaintances. Like I'm very satisfied. And something that Nick and I and Cody were chatting about last week, which I think can be helpful for more people to hear, is how do you tactfully say no? I think that I've gotten really good at saying like, I'm too busy. See you in 6 months. And some people will follow up 9 times. And I wish I was better at saying no. And I'd love, Nick, if you can share what you shared.
Because I'm terrible. The way that this led is like I got an invitation for something, and I was just like, I'm so terrible. And I know in the past, as especially things were newer, I would say yes to everything, and now I realize I have no ability to say no. So I either ghost people or I say yes. So I want to learn from you guys here.
Yeah, I'm not that great at it. I've been trying to get better. I've unfortunately done the ghosting thing a lot, and it never feels good when then they genuinely say hi or how you doing or hope you're good. So then you're like, damn, I totally ghosted them, and they didn't have any bad intent. But I mean, lately, I would just say like, if it's a work thing, if somebody's like, hey, I want to pick your brain on this, I'll say, absolutely. Here's a link to MentorPass. If you can give me value by compensating me for my time that I'm going to take away from everything else I got going on, then I will give my undivided attention to you. I'll do everything I can to make that time completely worth it. And that works out really well because one, that qualifies a lot of people to like, all right, are these people that, if people are paying to talk to me, like they're probably actually really dope people. And a lot of them have been.
And you don't feel any shame about that? Just being like, hey,
no, I used to think like, I used to think about it that way, but then, if you zoom out, it's like, all right, I definitely spend probably 5 or 6 hours a week just creating free content for everybody to consume. A lot of stuff that I think is stuff that's very relevant. And so I already put that out there. 99% of the questions I get, or the things that people want to pick my brain about, is something I've already put out. And so it's like, all right, now if you want to just ask me the same questions, then I'm happy to walk you through it and maybe explain it a little bit closer to your specific use case. Just compensate me for my time, and it's a win-win situation. Then I'm also genuinely really excited to do that. And so that's what I do for work stuff. And then, or if it's just something I'm just not interested in, I think I used to still like entertain it. If somebody's like, hey, I'm raising money for this and I would love your help in blah, blah, blah. And, I'd say, oh, sorry, I'm not really investing right now, or I'm not going to invest in this, but happy to help in any way I can. Which, like, some of those are just like, they just bite me later. They'll follow up 8 times. Hey, what happened to that intro that you mentioned you could get me some intros? And so I just kind of learned, all right, I just got to be like super frank, I guess. If I can't do something, I'm just going to say, sorry, I'm just heads down right now and I'm not taking calls. Or, sorry, this company that you want to build doesn't fit my thesis for X, Y, and Z. And so I'm passing and I'm out, completely out. So almost just being a little bit, I guess it's just being a little bit more honest with the other person of like why I'm saying what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I think honestly, it probably feels better because you don't feel like you're leading people on. I think there's been a lot going on Twitter where it's like, oh, when I was coming up, so many people were nice to me, and now you got to give back. And I think your point is pretty spot on. Like, giving back can be the crazy helpful newsletter that you write every week that takes you hours to write, or it can be you sharing content on Twitter. And I think it's like, I'm happy to have a coffee with somebody that feels like they're coming up, but the guy that's doing $20 million in revenue that wants to pick my brain is not necessarily.
There's so many times too where I'll just take calls with people because I'm like, oh, this person like genuinely wants to do cool shit, and I can sense that, and I'll happily go grab coffee or whatever. But also, I think there's a weird perception that like everybody just sits around and waits for you to hit them up to get on the phone. Like my calendar is already booked day to night. It's not like I have an empty calendar and I'm refusing to take your call because I don't want to talk to you. In fact, normally what I say to those things is like, hey, I can't get on a call, but shoot me, like email me, whatever you want. Or if it's on Twitter, like tell me on DM, or, like text me. Here's my number. Shoot me a text. Let's text about it. We don't have to be on an active phone call or on an active Zoom call. Like you can send me a voice note, or you can send me a text. You can send me an email. There's so many people that send me emails, and I help in any way I can, because it's so much easier for me to help them by like typing versus, all right, now I got to get on the call and, talk, then it's a block too. It's like a 30-minute block. But a lot of times, just even recently, somebody was like, hey, can we get on a call? I said, no, but just tell me over email. I'm happy to help you by email. Tell me your question and I'll see if I can help you in any way. And they said, oh, okay, no worries at all. I was just wondering, how do I do this? And also, do you know any investors that are looking to fund this? And it's like, I answered his question and then I connected him with 2 people, and that replaced 30 minutes. It was a lot more efficient. And also he got his thing much faster than me saying, me acting like a dick and saying, oh, I can get you in 3 weeks.
Yeah, good call. And then hopefully he doesn't follow up in 3 weeks. Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's super interesting. Like, obviously I'm not putting out as much value as you are, but like Eli and I are trying as well. And like we're doing it to help. But like obviously Eli and I and Nick, I mean, you're gotta be the busiest guy, but like Eli and I have literally like full-time jobs, like trying to run this brand. And like people will be like, oh, like we'll just hop in DM and be like, I got one last week, like, oh, hey, in your quiz flows, do you have 1 email or 6? And they asked me like 6 like in-depth personal questions about like our emails and our quiz flow. And I was just like, I was kind of like the nerve to like ask this. I'm like, dude, I want to help you. Like, I'd be happy to answer these on MentorPress, but like, I just feel like sometimes people think that they're like owed something. You know what I mean? Without like giving anything in return. And I'm so much more willing to help and answer those questions if it's somebody I've interacted with, whether it's just through Twitter and chatted with, and somebody who I see who's out there helping other people. But sometimes it's like somebody I've never even interacted with, or like I don't know anything about. It's like, why should I take the time to do this when like I've got a to-do list of all these other things I got to do?
Yeah.
Back to the beginning of the episode that I think we hit on this, but I think it's ringing true for me throughout this conversation is like by saying yes to almost anything, you're saying no to something else. And saying no to something else doesn't have to mean I'm saying no to a different call. It can mean I have 5 minutes between two meetings that I want to just meditate and catch a vibe. And I'm saying no because I'll have to answer your email where you asked me everything about my life. And I think it's I mean, that's the thing. Most of us are 9 to 9 operators. Not going to say we're in the trenches because we're clickety clack, but I mean we have full-time jobs, and what we do, you know, like I know Nick is writing his newsletter on a Sunday. Like he's like spending a few hours on a Sunday writing a newsletter. I know that I am busy on weekends writing this newsletter that I'm excited about. But I mean, we do this for ourselves, but we're saying yes to something, we're saying no to something else. And I think it's a solid note to end on. I'm about to get dark in this room. It's 8:32 on a Tuesday.
I keep saying Monday.
Namaste.
Strong Monday energy. I felt like it was putting out fires all day. I swear it was a Monday.
It was a total Monday.
It's even worse because you missed out the Monday. You had like a 7-day weekend. I'm no mathematician, but it feels like this weekend was forever. And now we have the shortest week. And everything I've said no to in the last 6 months, I said I'm going to do it in June. So I have like June 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th. I'm just going to toss my computer at the glass door and hope that.
On Sunday nights, I learned this from Jesse Puggi. I don't exactly know his method, but essentially what he does is like a full calendar audit. He just looks at his calendar and says, I don't want to do that. And I don't want to do that. And that brings me no value. And that's a waste of my time. Yeah.
Like a Marie Kondo.
Clean it up. And so
Does
that's
it spark
what I
joy?
do now is every Sunday I look at my calendar and I just say, I agreed to that meeting 3 weeks ago for some sales pitch of a headless CMS. That's just not worth my time right now. And there's other things that are a lot more pressing that are significantly more important. And so I'm just going to cancel that.
Wait, are you interested in the headless CMS?
Yeah. Can I pitch it? Yeah, no, I love that. I got to do that. What I did this past weekend is I used Superhuman too, and I just snoozed all my stuff till today, and I was feeling great. I'm like, all right, catching up,
that's
almost
awesome.
Back to inbox 0. But then this morning I got like 15 emails.
Yeah. 15. That's cute.
You got
I don't even want to know. Dude.
15. I wish I had 15, dude.
I don't want to know.
What did you wake up to this morning,
so
Mr. Sharma?
I separated out. I have important. I have work week stuff. I have a couple of newsletters in one tab, and then I have other. So other, I almost always just Command A delete, pretty much instantly, and then and I'll just kind of scroll through it and see if there's anything important. But like usually it's like if I scroll through right now, I see Berries, 101 Domain, Wink, StockX, Microsoft, Super Coffee. Some like music industry charts newsletter, just a bunch of random stuff. Oh, Olipop's in here too, and I'll just literally,
that sparks joy.
Got a new flavor, so that to me is exciting. So like that's one that I would see, and then
should I drop the flavor?
That's up to you, man.
Do you think I'll get canceled if I drop a flavor exclusive on our podcast? I'm gonna drop it. Who's gonna cancel me? It's banana
that
cream.
Makes sense. The email creative does look like banana creamy, so that makes sense. It's gonna be exciting.
Yep. It's been in the pipeline for forever. It's a collaboration with the Minions.
He's really giving the whole thing.
So you heard it here first.
That's awesome. That's dope.
By the time this podcast comes out, I feel like it'll
probably
be announced already. So I just know that it's been in the workings for forever. And
in case Olipop lawyers are listening, where can they send the cease and desist? What's your address?
Send it to it's Cody's address. It's our LLC. It's
I'm canceled.
But yeah, probably like 100 emails a day in the important tab that require a response. So like right now I'm at 44, and my goal is that by the time I log off, I'm at, 10, 9.
Do you do it at like all hours? Do you
Wow.
block time
Well,
for email? How do you get through it?
Oh, all right. So this is my nightly routine. If there's no dinner, then which usually Monday, Tuesday, I don't do anything in the evening because my goal is entirely to just work. And so usually what I'll do is I'll just throw on like an hour long set from Zed or Elenium or something like that. And then I just crank. I just sit at this desk and crank on emails and Slack and crushing the to-do list, hustling and grinding. And yeah.
straight up.
Yeah.
Amazing. Incredible. I mean, the
All right,
grind
well,
doesn't
maybe
stop. Just like these
let's end it
tweets.
there. 'Cause we got to let this guy get back to his grind.
Well, Nick, it's been a pleasure. I mean, I honestly can't think of anyone else we'd rather break our podcast virginity with, and it's been a pleasure. It felt like a couple of good friends catching up.
We didn't even bring up the group chat.
Thanks, Emil. Dude,
one question.
Shout out to the group chat.
On Twitter is, how many group chats are you in, and what's your favorite one?
It's a good question.
Wow.
All right, so on a daily basis, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, probably.
Damn, I'm honored.
8 group chats. Oh no, 9. 9 group chats, but I'm not always responding to everything,
Sheesh.
But they are all entertaining. I think one thing that I learned during the pandemic, just being alone for so long, I was like, these group chats to just like, it's like having a comedy always on in every group chat, And so like, why not at least be a part of them? And so I became a huge advocate for having good group chats during the pandemic, because they also lead to just amazing group FaceTimes later. But also they're just like so fun, and like, everybody's obviously working and busy, but there's always time for a couple of fun messages here and there.
Yeah, I love that we don't really talk about anything serious in ours. Like, it's a bunch of people that are working super hard on DTC stuff, and there's like pretty much nothing serious in ours, which is great.
Yeah.
I think he skipped the second half of the question.
Which one's the favorite? Damn. I would say ours, the big one from Miami. That's probably keeps me laughing the most all day.
It does. Yeah. Shout out to Shrey.
Easy. Well, a special shout out to Shrey. Special shout out to all our BFFs, and obviously a special shout out to our sponsors, Wayflyer
Big
and
shout out to
swag.com.
Wayflyer. I'm a huge fan of Wayflyer.
Possible.
I remember
huge. There you go. You heard it here
months
first.
Ago, one of my portfolio companies is Canopy, the humidifier, and they were like, I think the context was they were thinking of going to raise a small bridge, and I was like, oh, have you looked into Wayflyer, before deciding to do this as an equity raise? And they were like, no, what's Wayflyer? And so connected them with Patty at Wayflyer, who's just a legend of a human being. I don't know if you guys have met Patty yet.
Yeah, we met Patty. Dude, the whole team is great. I love Wayflyer.
We met him in Miami.
Patty's one of the funniest guys. And within a couple of days, he had $1 million at his disposal at a ridiculously low rate, 1.2%, something like that. But it was insane for their business, and obviously they're a great partner and it's a great sponsor.
Well, there you go, Wayflyer. You can cut that out and run that as a Facebook ad. Nick's camera's a little bit grainy, but other than that, I feel like it feels like UGC. Well, again, special thanks, and dude, it's been a blast chatting.
Plug,
so
you got your newsletter. I know you're doing a podcast.
Yeah,
with Moise.
I will.
Where can people find you?
I'll plug my newsletter. So if you learned anything from me in this podcast, please subscribe to my newsletter. Everything I put out is free. The newsletter is a great way to hear any of the thoughts that I have throughout the week, and also If you subscribe, it helps me out, and it doesn't cost you a thing. So go do that. It's nick.co/email, nik.co/email.
And it's an amazing
Easy.
newsletter. I think we read it every single week. I'm pretty sure everyone, watching, listening to
Fact.
this podcast reads it. But if for whatever reason you don't, definitely subscribe. You will learn so much.
Thank you, sir.
Fact. There we go.